on Monday, the 13th of September. I will call to order the regular board meeting of the Madison Central School District. Mr. Brooks will record that all members are present, and thus we have a quorum. Next, we would all stand, please, and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you much. We have one addition to our agenda. Mr. Jorgensen, do you want to inform the group of that?
One more under request to hire would be Kelly, Kellie, Purinton, Purinton, as a temporary part-time custodian. That'd be at $13.40 an hour, and then 1 hour differential on top of that.
So we have one item to amend to our agenda. At this point in time, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Mrs. Kaplan, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hanemichael. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Declare that that is passed. Next is item number 6, approval of the consent agenda, items 7 through 9. We have our minutes of our regular meeting of August 9th. Mr. Avery, Mr. Bundy, and myself went through a lot of bills. Anything there that any of us saw? Then on to number 9 and our personnel items, and Mr. Jorgensen.
For resignation, we have Kendra Paulson as elementary paraprofessional. That'll be effective September 22nd. A request to hire, like I said, we added Kelly Purinton as a temporary part-time custodian at $13.40 an hour, 1 hour differential. Request to hire playground supervisors, Treya Hubbard, Martin Heineck, Taylor Quasty, Jacob Moss, Jacob Punt, Shelby Sherrod, and Jordan Westendorf. That'd be at $10 per hour. Again, that's for playground supervisors. Leanne Bolcher as a kitchen sub at $12.20 per hour. Brent Kroger to replace Jennifer Baggett as an assistant marching band level 3 at $23.35.50. Gary Johnson as a temporary grounds at $19.50 per hour. And Katie Pugh as a temporary paraprofessional at $12 per hour. And then educational adjustments as per our master agreement. Cassandra Brunick goes from BA 15 to BA 30 at $47,065. Terry Gary goes from Masters to Masters 15 at $58,107. Darcy Kavanaugh from Masters to Masters 15 at $50,683. Robin Schwabach from BA 30 to MA 45 at $47,473. Aaron Salvazzi at Masters to Masters 15. Kendra Weezy, oops, we don't have that amount there, we'll have to look at that. Kendra Weezy, Masters plus 30 to Masters plus 45 at $53,852. And Valerie Wilkins, Masters 30 to Masters 45 at $55,771. And I can look that up very quick, so we have it in here. Aaron Salvazzi will be at $50,683.
Okay.
Was there a typo on the Robin Schwabach?
Nope, that's correct. Part of it is she's not full-time either.
Okay, well, motion second on the consent items and then discussion.
So moved.
Mr. Bundy, is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Schultz. Further questions or discussion on the consent agenda items? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of consent agenda items signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Declare those have passed. Doesn't look like we have any delegations, so we can skip number 10. On to number 11, then administrators report.
Just a couple different items. COVID numbers update, so as of today, we have 0 active cases. We've had 3 in the elementary to date. Our school nurse has conducted 22 rapid tests, so that could be for staff that maybe had symptoms, or it could be students returning after 5 days that not have a mask. Lake County, we're currently at 31 active cases. We went from high spread to substantial from last week to this week. So we'll keep monitoring and keep moving forward with the plan we have in place. Attending the DSU Job Fair, Ms. Guzzi attended the DSU Trojan Fest Job Fair. I believe it was on the 1st, if I remember right. And as you can see by our hires earlier, we were able to get a number of playground supervisors hired, which was great. Spirit of Marching Band held their End of the Lights performance Saturday evening. And then this is homecoming week. The coronation is tonight at 7:30 p.m. Go to Prairie Flight House. That's all I have.
Okay. Anybody else, administrator or board member reports? And let's move on to item number 12, consider approval of an open enrollment applications 22-9 through 22-11.
Elementary and middle school, and we would recommend approval of these applications.
Okay. Recommendation by the administration is approval of 22-9 through 22-11 open enrollment applications. Would there be a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Mr. Harmichael, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Bundy. Questions, discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 13 on the 13th. Discussion of potential wrestling co-op.
Yep, and I asked Mr. Ricky and Mr. Waba to join us tonight, and I'll turn it over to them here in a second, but basically, Mr. Ricky was approached, I know, about the potential of an interest for a co-op in wrestling, so I will turn it over to those 2 gentlemen just to fill us in on the request that's come forward, where it's at, and if we have interest in moving forward. We're not looking for any motion tonight, other than just wanted to see where everybody was at with it, and come back next month if there's interest in moving forward.
So last spring, I was approached by Andrew Johnson from Oldham, Ramona, about the possibility of having some of their students wrestle for Madison High School, Madison Middle School. Jason Hansen, who's the athletic director at Rutland, got involved. I believe Mr. Jorgensen brought this to you late last year about that. We were in the initial talks. Since then, like not much was done over the summer, but we kind of ramped up the talks. We have to have this approved by the November South Dakota High School Activities Association Board of Directors meeting. It has to be on the agenda by then. So we've been starting to look at numbers, how many they would have, what we want to do as far as policies in place, as far as transportation, costs, income, all of those things. And we're just in the initial I shouldn't say we're in the initial stages. We're kind of starting to work out the numbers. One of the ideas that's been thrown out is to kind of try and find an average per athletes that it costs us for each of our athletes, and then pass that cost on to however many athletes they provide us. That way, if one year they have 3 kids and the next year they have 10, on that year they have 10, they're going to pay more, and the year when they have 3, it's less. It's no extra cost to us. We still have the same number of coaches as what we would normally. We would still incur all of the costs as far as registration, transportation, all of that. But we're working on how do we get those kids here, and what do we do with them when they get home, and those types of things. So we will get that all straightened out and have a proposal for you at the next meeting. I just had Mr. Waba here. He was obviously the first one that I talked to when they approached me to see if that's something that they would be interested in. So I don't know if you want to kind of talk about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I guess I'm all for giving opportunities to as many kids as possible. And when we get approached by some people from surrounding areas that they have the kids in their school district that would like to try wrestling or continue wrestling, I'm all for giving those kids that opportunity. So when it was approached to me, asking what my thoughts were, I said, yep, let's bring them in and let's do it for them. So it was a good deal there.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, some of these kids that we're expecting are in our youth wrestling programs.
Yeah, a lot of the kids do come up through our youth program because it's open to the surrounding areas. So they're in with us all anyways. This summer we went to a summer camp up at Northern, and we had a couple of the kids approach us saying, hey, can we go along to camp with you? So the kids came along and they went to camp with us already. So they're already fitting in and they're already trying to be part of it. So I think this is just an extension of that.
I would just ask, is there anything specific that you would like me to address with them, in regards to, as we begin these negotiations?
Say the liability, as far as the transportation, like you said, from there to here, if it's gonna be parents,
Right.
who's gonna be liable.
And other ones that I've been involved with, in a lot of other schools, transportation, as far as those students could ever be on the districts that are running here. It would fall on their policies and what they have in place as far as their transportation here or not here, because they're not our kids. They're coming from another district, but we want that all spelled out.
So that's the way I would understand it too, is it would be their liability from their school to our school, and then once they're on our school, and we're going to, say the web, or up north somewhere, then it would be our liability.
Sure.
But I'll make sure I get all that spelled out.
So it could potentially involve Oldham, Ramona, and Rutland?
It's going to be both.
Okay.
They said that they won't be able to do it with one or the other.
Okay.
It will be all or none.
Okay. And that won't in any way impact us with added enrollments for classifications?
No, we're already at the highest class, so it will not impact us. And then just, one thing I can tell you right now is it will still be Madison Bulldogs. It's not gonna be Madison/ORR. It's Madison Bulldogs. They will wrestle under our name. They will wear our colors. They will, all of the events, all of the practices. That was the first thing I said, is they will all be in Madison. We're not gonna have an event in Rutland Gym because they're a part of that. And they agreed right away with that. They just wanna try and provide an opportunity for those kids to wrestle if they want to.
That's cool.
And would it impact the kids in Madison at all?
Well, that's a great question, and that's something I've been asked in the past. The one thing I would say is, as Mr. Waba said, they already know these kids. Could there be a kid from Rutland who beats out a kid from Madison? Yes, it could. So there would be that impact. But they already know those kids. They already wrestle with them. They're friendly with them. But yes, there could be that impact that we have.
But the kids, I'm not familiar with wrestling, so I don't know how the competition works. Does everybody get to wrestle? Or would there be some kids that would lose an opportunity to participate?
The way our wrestling is set up, we have a varsity JV middle school schedule. So the kids at the beginning of the year would all wrestle off for that varsity spot. But I would say our JV schedule is as good as there is in the state as far as opportunities to compete. So everybody would get an opportunity to compete, whether it be at the varsity, the junior varsity, or at the middle school level. So they would wrestle for that varsity spot, and then after that, then we're pretty good about finding them about 25 matches a year, regardless of what level they're at.
So are there any seniors that don't get varsity jerseys currently?
Not currently, there isn't. There has been in the past where we've had like sophomores or juniors beat out seniors, but they're still traveling. We don't sit. They're still wrestling. We'll wrestle an exhibition at the end, or we'll get them matches during the day too. So everybody basically will wrestle the same amount of matches, depending on what the team we wrestle against, what their roster looks like.
How many students do you think we can add before we want to have adequate coaching?
I've been up in that room before where we've had 50 plus wrestlers up there at one time, and we're 20 under that right now, so quite a few.
For those of you who aren't familiar with the wrestling program, when they have practice, they have 12th through 7th grade all up in the wrestling room at the same time. Now the 7th and 8th graders don't wrestle with the high school kids unless they're competing for a varsity spot. But they're kept separate, so we have 4 coaches up there at all times. With Zach Johnson would be considered the middle school coach, and then Coach Waba, Coach Konechny, and Coach Johnson are the high school coaches. So, you know, we would have, I would say that we could take on quite a few before we'd have to worry about adding any additional coaching. The other thing that they did say is that whatever we come to as an agreement would be reevaluated every 2 years to see if it's something we would want to continue.
Would there be any policies that we'd have to look at changing?
You know, not that I'm aware of. You know, this is my first time. Obviously, we did it with gymnastics a few years back, a little co-op with Salem. So I don't, our policies would stay in place. Mr. Jorgensen might be able to answer that question a little bit
The
better.
ones that I've been familiar with, we were fortunate because our infractions matched up anyway, in the particular case I'm thinking of. That'd be one thing you'd have to talk to them, like if there is an infraction of a policy, what is theirs versus what's ours.
We've already talked about
We
that.
would enforce what we have in place for our kids.
Right, you know, the training rules are pretty much strict, are for the most part universal. It's the academic eligibility that there would be some question on. Their proposal is that they would stay with their kids would fall into their academics, their academic eligibility, and ours would stay under ours.
Which I think is common in co-ops, isn't it?
Very much so. Because they are their students. Just wanted to bring it forward and see if there was hesitation or we have to go ahead to keep looking into it. And next month may come with a proposal of here's what it looked like, or discussions with OR may not pan out and may be done.
And we've looked at some initial numbers that they can take to their board, because ultimately, if their board says no, that's no, then there's no
Yep.
reason for us to consider it. So we have talked, and they will talk to their board tonight or this week when they have their meetings, and say, yep, they're still interested in proceeding forward, and then we can come up with a more formal proposal. Anybody else have any questions for me?
Thanks for bringing it forward.
I'm okay to proceed with this? Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, number 14, Dakota State University Athletic Facilities Project.
Well, I just wanted to talk a little about, share some thoughts on the project. Currently, obviously, we don't have our own football field or track. We utilize theirs. This project that they are trying to undertake, they move forward with that. We're gonna have to look at things, we're gonna have to change for us, I'm sure, and I would like us to be a part of that. I'd like us to have a partnership. I don't think anybody wants Madison Central to have their own football field and one track. It would make no sense in my mind, and the cost there would be a large cost, I believe. We're trying to look into numbers for that. So I just wanted it out there that I think we have to have some formal talks with them to be part of a partnership. Now, we'd be a small part, but it'd also be part of our home of the Bulldogs too for our kids when they play. And I just think that I plan, unless the board tells me not to, that we'll have discussions on how we can move forward with some of these things. I think if we had to go do this on our own, we're talking about a huge expense. I think we can find a way to partner with them. Like we have in the past, we've got a great partnership. I don't know why we won't continue that. I don't know that it'll look like it does right now, but I also think the facility will be night and day as well. So that's my thoughts on it. I've shared some of that before. I just think we need to keep moving forward with that and I need to have some formal discussions with them. And we'll come back to the board with some recommendations on dollars that we would be looking at potentially to help with this project if we can be part of it. Get it out there that we need to plan ahead, whether it starts in a year or 2 years, whatever. We don't want to be behind the 8 ball and all of a sudden we're on the outside looking in. And like I say, we've got a great partnership with DSU. I don't see that changing, but this facility would be way different than the facility that we utilize from them right now. So I just feel that it's a good move for us, good move for our kids to be as much a part of it, even though it's a small part, as we can for our students. And I think I'm safe in saying nobody wants Madison Central to have their own football field and own track, but that's just me speaking.
Blocks away would not be a good deal.
I don't think our county needs to,
Yeah, I just think it's an opportunity for us to be part of it, help out with it, like I say, a small part obviously, but I just feel that it's a discussion we have to have, and we would come forward in the near future proposing some possible dollar amounts of a long-term look at what we can do to be part of that moving forward.
Further questions or discussion? We have a motion, but really we're not looking for a motion.
Oh yeah, there shouldn't be a motion. I just wanted it out there, the discussion, and that I want to continue that. I want to meet with folks and see what we can try to figure out. Unless someone thinks we need to be going a different direction and planning our own facility, but I really don't recommend that in any way, shape, or form.
I do think it's important that we have Mr. Brooks put something together for us to actually show the cost to us by trying to go on our own. And not only that, but the liability of maintaining a facility on our own. I really do think there's a financial reason to join with DSU on this impact, even a small part of it as we're going to have. I think we're protecting the school district by doing that.
And Mr. Brooks is working on that. We're trying to get more information. Sometimes it's a little hard to get information from some, but we continue to work on that. The intent will be to bring that forward too once we have some completed information that we can share.
It's kind of hard when they know you're really not serious about wanting to build.
right, to get the quotes from them, yeah, exactly.
When you're fishing, it's more difficult.
So we'll gather everything we can. Mr. Brooks has contacts too, and
Yeah.
those that have done some, just to get an idea of what kind of costs, if we went on our own, which I'm not saying that's the cost we need to look at utilizing, but just for a baseline at least, here's the reality of it if we had to go on our own.
Well, I think we have to look realistically at what those costs would be, and then being a good neighbor and a good partner has to be put into that also.
But I just want to get it out there, and we'll bring more information forward once we have it. And make sure that we get the information out there, one that see what we're looking at.
Anything else by the board? Then let's move on to number 15, a date for a school board planning retreat.
You know, I mentioned a couple dates. I know one that would work best probably as I talked with the admin was the 30th of September, but that may not work well for you folks. That's a Thursday, I believe.
I will not be able to make the 30th.
Okay. So then we talked, I just looked at what we had for all of our activities in our school, and then look at Wednesdays, so then it was the 20th, 27th, it was Mondays. So right now on the 30th, we have just one that won't be here. Yep. So, we can look at other dates too. Those are just ones that weren't a Wednesday when we didn't have activity that I was aware of that would involve the board members.
Could we meet on Wednesday, if it worked for everybody? I mean,
Steve, or Wednesday work for you or not?
This year will.
Okay.
So Wednesdays would work too then, if that works for everyone else.
I'll be gone the 26th, 27th, 28th.
How about this? Could you all send me dates that will work? So we'd probably look at like 5:30 start in the past. That sound right?
I think, yeah, we probably want to try and start at 5, and then we'll have a snack or two, and then probably 8, hopefully we'll be done, no later than 8.
What time frame do you want to set? Like the 20th through?
Let's start with not this week, so it's starting next week to the end of the
Let's
month.
not go
Or even-
next Monday though.
No.
I mean, that's kind of hard to, because to make it work, one of the things we need to do is to get the information out to you so that you can return it and we can get it compiled. I guess I could go ahead and get that out if we're committed to doing it though.
How about this? Look at dates from the, oops,
We go from the
from the
22nd.
22nd,
There we go.
November. There we go. From the 22nd, which is a Wednesday, how about through
6 October.
October 6th, which is a Wednesday?
Keith, Wednesdays aren't a problem for you?
Not, nope.
Okay.
Now, the only thing I'd say is on those other dates, the Mondays and Tuesdays, whatever, the only dates we didn't have a major varsity event, whatever going on that would involve board, was the 20th to 27th. So really, probably looking at 20, 27, and then on the Wednesdays, or, yeah, on the Wednesdays, 22, 29, and 6, most likely. I'll send it out to you. How's that? Does that work?
And we're probably eventually back.
Yep, yep.
Okay. Further questions there? And I'll prepare that initial email and get that ready to go out. If we want to follow pretty much the same way we've done in the past.
I think that's work.
What we've done, Rich, I guess you're probably the one that, what we've done in the past is we basically ask each of the people involved to come up with short-term and long-term things they'd like to get accomplished. We mean short-term primarily getting done within this academic year possibly, mid-range within the next year, 2 years, 3 years, and then long-term goals. And then what we do is we compile what everybody has done, we kind of campaign for those that we think that we'd like to see, we rank them, and then that kind of becomes our long-range plan, short, middle, and long. But we'll explain all of that as we mail it out to you. It was something we started, oh my goodness, Steve, probably what, close to 10 years ago, probably. And it seems to have worked fairly well for us, so. All right, anything else there? Number 16, policies.
Second reading on these policies, we had them last month. Recommending no changes other than what was presented last month. Again, these are all coming about because of medical cannabis and other things. These aren't specific to the medical cannabis, but these are ones that will tie into it eventually, so it's just adding that wording into these same policies. So I didn't bring forward the other two that we had last month because I don't have anything new yet from Department of Health. So if we get more new from the Department of Health, then we'll look at the second reading or changes to those at that point in time.
So we have 3 policies that we're looking at, GBCD, JFCH, and JHCD. We'd have a motion and a second, we could have discussion then.
So moved.
Mrs. Kaplan, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hanamichael. Further questions or discussions?
And again, all the changes that are in here were also recommendations from associated school boards and comparing their policies on these.
Further questions? Are we ready to vote? All in favor of approval of policy GBCD, JFCH, and JHCD, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Declare those policies have passed their second reading. Next is to appoint the delegate assembly for ASPSD, and that would be on the 19th of November in Pier.
1 o'clock in Pier on Friday, and that's when we go over potential positions on bills that we're hearing are coming forward, and they have a representative from every school as part of that. So we would ask to.
Anyone would like to volunteer?
I'd do it again, I did
Okay.
it every time, so.
Mr. Hanamichael would volunteer unless anyone wants to arm wrestle him for that.
I'll let him do it this year.
All right, you let him do it?
I think we've been swapping years, haven't we?
Yeah.
So the motion would be then that Mr. Hanamichael is our ASBSD delegate assembly person. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Kaplan. Further questions or discussion? Thank you, Rob. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Very good. We're going to executive session for personnel and then competitive positions. Media, any questions you have that you need clarifications on? Okay.